I'd like to talk to you today about something that I believe is very much misunderstood in the golf swing, and that's the swing plane. There are so many things out there on the internet that are misrepresentations of what the plane is. I want to try to clear up some of this. This is a plane. This is a flat surface. From this camera's perspective, you can see the entire surface of the plane. However, if I was to turn to the side, you're now going to be looking at the side of a plane. If you've ever taken a golf lesson or you've seen someone draw a line up from the golf ball through possibly the turn shoulder or through the elbow, we call those plane lines. So an elbow plane would be a lower plane like this. It would be a more shallow plane, and then a turn shoulder plane would be a more steep plane like this. That would simply be a line drawn from the golf ball through where the turn shoulder is in the backstroke. When we draw that line, what we're hoping is that the golf club gets on that line and returns to the golf ball. The sooner you can get the club on that line in the downstroke, the lower your handicap. If you wait until the very last moment to get it on a line where the golf club will intersect the golf ball, then you're going to be a higher handicap. I want to give you a couple of examples that I use in my own teaching that will give you a better understanding of what I'm trying to show you. The first thing that I'd like to show you is just a tennis ball on a string. If I was to swing this tennis ball around, it orbits a center. So when you see this circular path of the ball, you're looking at me from face on. So this is more or less what the golf club would look like. Truly, the golf club travels in an ellipse. I'm not going to get into that. This is a little bit more basic discussion than that. But you'll see that this club, what this tennis ball represents, this golf club would travel around in a circle. However, if I turn to the side like this and I start spinning the tennis ball the same way, you now see the tennis ball is traveling in a straight line. So is it traveling in a straight line or is it traveling in a circle? The answer is yes. Just depends on your perspective. So when you're looking at it from down the line like this, hopefully you'll see this tennis ball traveling towards that golf ball in a straight line. And that would represent the line that we would draw on the computer when we're looking for swing plane. So the orbital path of the club head is the most important thing, and we hope that the club head gets on that line that intersects the ball very soon in the downstroke. I'd like to show you a different analogy, something else that I use to teach with, and I want to show you a good way to do it, and I also want to show you a bad way to do it. So hopefully we can make this explanation very simple. I've got a hammer and a nail. Obviously, if I want to strike this nail, I'd like to have the hammer lined up with it. If I want to do it on this plane, if you're watching me do it on a vertical plane, you would hope that I would have the hammer lined up with the nail very soon in its downward path before I struck the nail. It doesn't make any sense to have the hammer over here somewhere lining up with something else and then have it come in and finally touch the nail. That would be what we would consider a compensated stroke. I want to have this hammer, which represents the golf club, on a line that would go straight back to that ball or straight back to this nail. So really the only thing that we want to do in the golf stroke is to have the sweet spot of the club lined up on a line that intersects the ball so that we can touch it again. Unfortunately, there's a swing theory out there. It's called a parallel plane theory. It doesn't make any sense at all if you know anything about geometry or physics. If I wanted to take this hammer and hit this nail, I would not want to line it up on a parallel line and move it in a parallel fashion and then somehow strike this nail as if it would just magically arrive and touch it, because parallel lines don't ever intersect. So if I'm moving this thing on a parallel path and then somehow come down and touch this nail, I've made some compensation to move it over there. So I do not agree with the parallel plane theory. It really doesn't make any sense physically. But I can understand how someone would see it that way, because the placement of the camera can have a huge effect on what you see. If I have the camera off the side of the plane, I could see some of the surface of the plane, or I could see the top side or the underneath side, and it wouldn't make any sense to have a discussion about swing plane. So camera placement is very important. If it's looking through the side of the plane, it should see a very finite line. It should not see any of that board when I place it here on the ground. I'm going to use a golf club now to show you what I would do in a golf lesson. So with a golf club, what I've done here is I've laid a couple of lines down on what would be my target line, and then I've also got a parallel line which would be my toe line, where my feet would be. This would just be a very square address alignment. If I wanted to swing the club on plane at any point in the backstroke, I would hope that I would have either the club head, which that would be the first part of the backstroke, or the butt of the club, which that would be the upper part of the stroke. I would hope that one of those would be pointed at this target line or this baseline of the plane. And as I said, it really doesn't matter if you swing back on a very flat path and then steepen it and then come back down on a steeper path. I have very little concern about where your club goes back. Although there is a tendency for the club to come down as it goes back. So if I think that the backstroke is having an effect on the downstroke, then I'll change the backstroke. But really what I'm looking for is I'm looking for this sweet spot of the club to get into a position. I don't care where it is. I don't care whether it's a steep position or a flatter position, but I want that club head in a position where it can travel on a straight line back down to touch that golf ball. That's what we regard as swinging on plane, is the sweet spot on a plane traveling to the ball. I hope this helps you understand what swing plane's really all about. Thank you for watching.